Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm making a cute little sort of St. Patrick's Day card using this Heffy Doodle stamp. I believe this one is called Lucky Friends. I just really loved all these stamp images. I thought it would be fun to create a really bright sort of festive scene with these. So I went ahead and I loaded up my paper in my Misti so I could stamp these out all at once. I also stamped out a lot more of the shamrocks and a few more coins because I was really going to load up my scene with all of these images. So as I'm starting to stamp, I'm using my Brutus Monroe detail ink, and this is a small cube. I don't believe that this is available in their store, but you will get a bigger size ink pad with this detail ink from Brutus Monroe if you want to order that. I really love this ink because you can use it with watercolors as well as alcohol markers, and it won't run as long as it's dry. So it's kind of my go-to ink when I do any kind of coloring. After I had my images stamped and colored and cut out, which I didn't do on camera because this is already a long video, I went ahead and I took some Cabbage cardstock from Brutus Monroe, and I wanted to stamp this Concord 9th Plaid Background. I wanted to make sort of a tone-on-tone green plaid because I thought that went well with the whole St. Patrick's Day leprechaun theme. So I'm just loading it up in my Misti. I'm trying to make sure that I have everything straight because when you're using a background stamp that has stripes, you can really tell if it's crooked. So I like to use those grid lines on my door and on my paper in my Misti. Just make sure everything's straight so that I get a nice straight stamped background. Now I'm using some Jurassic surface ink from Brutus Monroe. This is one of those little 2-inch cubes as well, so it takes a little bit of time to go ahead and ink up your background, and I did go ahead and I stamped this several times so I would get a nice impression, but I really love the tone-on-tone green that I got from this stamped background. Now, like when I like to stamp my stamps in my Misti, for some reason I just pull up my sleeve and rub it over my image, and I think that just kind of helps really put some pressure on my stamps to get a good stamp impression. So you can see there that it's starting to stamp. I needed to stamp it a few more times to get a nice dark impression on the background. And you can see that I also went ahead and cut out a circle from the center of this card. Now I was going to have this as a landscape card, but I turned it and made it a portrait card because I noticed that that circle wasn't perfectly centered. There was a little bit more on one side than the other. So I just turned it so that it was portrait, and the side that has more background on it is on the bottom. So it looked a little bit better as a portrait than a landscape. But you can see here I'm kind of mapping out where I want to put all of my little images. I want this little guy to kind of sit on his pot of gold holding a coin, and I thought that would be really cute. So now I'm trying to think of this as a portrait card, and I thought he needs a little rainbow behind him. So I grabbed this stamp set. This is from Ellen Hudson, and I have to say I was really impressed that this stamp set already came in a really nice heavy plastic sleeve. You don't have to take it out of its packaging and put it in a different stamp sleeve. It already had one. So to make sure my rainbow was stamped in the right place, I took a pencil, I traced along the circle of my background, and then I knew exactly where I was going to have my card and everything arranged so I could go ahead and I could stamp that rainbow out. Now I wanted to go ahead and stamp this and emboss it in gold. So I'm running my little embossing bag over my cardstock, getting rid of some of that static cling so I get a nice clean embossed image. I'm using my Brutus Monroe embossing ink, and I'm just going to go ahead and stamp that little rainbow. Now this is a really simple stamp, simple image, but I thought it was really cute because after I got the gold embossed, I could go ahead and I could color those rainbow stripes, and I'll show you how I do that in a minute. I am using my own little personal pot of gold. This is my Gilded Sparkle from Brutus Monroe. Now y'all know I love my Gilded, but this one just kicks it up a notch because this is the Gilded with some gold sparkle. So it's absolutely gorgeous when you use it on pretty much everything. I still tend to use my plain Gilded for sentiments because I get a little bit more crisp of a sentiment stamp and emboss with my Gilded, but for backgrounds and for images, I really love this Gilded Sparkle. It just shines so bright. So I sped this part up because it's just a little bit of coloring, but I am using alcohol markers to color in this stamped and embossed image. Now I know that you're not typically supposed to do this, but since I did use Brutus Monroe ink, embossing ink, and embossing powders, I can do this because it's just something with the formula with their ink and their powder. It works together, and you can use your alcohol markers on top of it, and it's not going to hurt your markers at all. I asked Christopher what the science behind this was, and he just told me he's got all of his secrets locked in a safe in his office. So I don't exactly understand the whole science behind it, but it works. I talked to Christopher, and I love this little technique that you can do with these embossed images, because who doesn't want to color over their embossed images? And we haven't been able to do it before with our alcohol markers because it just wasn't safe. But I loved that I had this option with my alcohol markers because all of my other images are colored with the alcohol markers, so I wanted them to coordinate and look the same. So I'm just going to go ahead and blend all of these colors together, make a really colorful rainbow that I can put in the background of my little Lucky Friends card. So once I have all of those rainbow stripes colored, I'm just kind of wiping away some of that extra ink from my markers that's sitting on top of that rainbow, and you can see how perfectly it shines with that Gilded Sparkle. Now I remembered that I forgot to stamp out the stripes from this plaid background, so I thought I would go ahead and do that now, and I'm going to stamp them out and emboss them with some more of that Gilded Sparkle, because I just believe that you can never have too much gold on a card, and I think the gold and the green just really shouts St. Patrick's Day. So I probably could have loaded this up in my Misti, but I was a little bit lazy, so I just kind of put this stripe on my stamp block, put it at a diagonal so I could get more of that on there, and then I'm going to go ahead and emboss this all with my Gilded Sparkle. So my surface ink wasn't completely dry from when I stamped it out before, so you'll see here that I'm getting a lot of that sparkle sticking in places where I don't necessarily want it. But it wasn't that big of a problem to fix since you're kind of going in between the stripes. You have a lot of area that you can kind of brush away with a dry brush, and I'll show you I did that here in a minute. So it didn't really take very much to clean up this background and all of that embossing powder that is sticking where it's not supposed to go. It wasn't that big of a deal. And then once I embossed it with my heat gun, my second round of stamping, when I turned my lines and stamped again, it didn't stick at all. I had no problem. So it was really just on this first round of stamping that I got embossing powder basically all over the place. But you can see here I am just taking a dry brush, I'm brushing away that extra powder, and it's going to end up being a really nice clean embossed lines on my background. So it didn't end up being a problem at all. You can see all of that extra powder that's coming off there. I just really wanted to stick on this background. So I got that cleaned up, I went ahead and stamped out all my lines, and I embossed them. And I was really happy with how this background was looking. I just love that green and that gold. I think it's just so festive and so cute. So moving on, I wanted to make a little bit of a sky with this rainbow. So I'm taking some of my surface ink, and this is actually some Pink and Main colors of surface ink. Now, Pink and Main has some surface inks, just like Brutus Monroe has surface inks. They're the exact same formula, so they work the same, only these are Pink and Main colors. So I have a set of the Pink and Main colors, and I just really liked this sky color. I think it's called Sunny Sky is what this blue is, and I thought it went really well with this rainbow. So I just went ahead and I blended some on. I just wanted to make it really dark on the bottom and then kind of fade out into the sky, and I thought it just added a little bit more depth and interest to the background of this card. So I just went ahead and I ink blended it out, make sure it looked nice and the way I wanted it to. So once that was all ink blended, I did go ahead and I adhered down my plaid background with some foam adhesive so it popped up a little bit. And now I'm just going to go and I'm going to adhere all of these tiny parts down to my card. Now I do not have the dies for these images. I hand cut all of these. And I am not a fan of fussy cutting, but I tend to do a lot of it because I love the look when you're finished. So the process isn't my favorite, but the product is. So I do tolerate some fussy cutting when I have to. So I'm using a mix of foam adhesive and liquid glue just to make sure that all of these heights are the same. I'm putting my little leprechaun guy here on top of his pot of gold. I'm going to give him a little coin to hold because I just thought that was cute. He looked like he needed to be holding something. I went ahead and I sped up this portion because this is a lot of gluing and a lot of little detailed work. I didn't know if I wanted to cut it all out or if you guys enjoyed watching me build this scene, so I thought I'd just go ahead and speed it up. Just let me know in the comments if you like watching all of this fussy little piecing together of my cards, or if you'd rather me skip it in the future. I definitely want to show you how I created the card, but if you feel like this is not something you need to watch, I can definitely skip this out in the future. But for this card, I went ahead, I left it in, and I just sped up the footage. So like I said, I'm using a mix of this Brutus Monroe craft glue and some foam adhesive. I wanted to pop up some of the shamrocks and some of the coins, but some of them I just wanted to leave right down on the panel there. So I'm just kind of eyeballing it, trying to make sure they're a little bit even. And then after I got all of these glued down, as if I didn't have enough going on, I went ahead and I added some sequins as well because you can never have enough sparkle and shine. But I love this craft glue because it dries fairly quickly. You don't have to wait forever for it to dry, so you can move on with your card. But it doesn't dry too fast, so you do still have a little bit of wiggle room. So I've been using this craft glue like crazy. I've got this fine tip applicator on there so that I can add it to tiny bits like I'm doing right now, and it works just fantastic. So I definitely recommend the craft glue if you're looking for a good glue. So like I said, once I got everything on there, I took a few of these tiny clear sequins, and these are from Nuvo, and I added them with some more of that craft glue, and I really like the way it sparkles. I'm just, a big fan of sparkle all over the place, so I think it looks great. I really love how it creates this little frame around that circle, and my little leprechaun guy is just sitting on his pot of gold, happy as can be, at the end of that rainbow. So after I've got all of this together, all I need now is my sentiment, and I thought I would go really simple with the sentiment since I already have so much going on. So I just stamped out one of those sentiments from the stamp set, and I added some foam adhesive to the back, and I'm going to add it right below this little pot of gold. And I think the sentiment I use, I'll see here in a minute, I can't remember, it says, "Cheers and good luck." I thought that was just really cute. So I'm just going to add that to the bottom. It doesn't stick out too much, but it is there, and that pretty much completes the card. So thanks for stopping by, everybody. Let me know what you think in the comments. I'll have some more pictures. I'll have links of all the products I used. Otherwise, have a great day. Don't forget to hit subscribe, like, or tap that bell for future notifications, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!